Lumen sage. Is revenge not all you desire? I know the one who destroyed your world. I know the one who destroyed your love. Who?
Miss me, baby?
Hey guys, glad to be back. Sorry this video took longer than expected. I've kind of been busy moving recently, so unfortunately with life and everything going on, I had to put this video on the back burner. Thankfully everything's been moved and I'm now finally settled in. I am back with Bayonetta 2, and boy howdy do I have some feelings. In the last episode I covered the first game in this series, and suffice it to say, I had a great time with it. It had some problems here and there, and trying to play the game on hard mode can be a soul-crushing experience, but I still find myself gravitating towards it, giving it another go. So when I finally got my hands on Bayonetta 2 in preparation for this review, my expectations were sky high. With brighter colors, new mechanics, and many of the issues that the first game had being completely removed, I was curious to see where the sequel would take the story following the events of the last game. Now that I have completed Bayonetta 2 and had some time to stew over my thoughts and feelings as to which game I prefer, I think I'm fairly confident in saying the original title. Now, before I go into detail as to why I made this choice, I just want to make it clear that I did enjoy Bayonetta 2. It gave me that same feeling the first game embodied, that feeling of high-octane, over-the-top action and spectacle with a fun, optimistic leading lady as the protagonist. But along with that came this feeling of dread, that something was missing from the original game that didn't quite carry over to the sequel. Is that the game's fault? I don't really think so. I believe it has more to do with Bayonetta 2's chaotic development period, but also to do with unmet expectations with having to expand on what the first game put forward. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and instead take it from the top. In 2009, Platinum Games' Bayonetta came out to critical acclaim.
Yeah, boy.
The game was purely distilled with stylish action and a sense of fun and whimsy, which of course led to the creation of a rather substantial fanbase of its own. So of course a sequel was in order.
No one said you could touch.
While other projects were being worked on at Platinum, such as The Wonderful 101 and Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, oh my god what a mouthful, work on the sequel continued progressively in the background. With a lot of the devs from Team Little Angel returning to work on Bayonetta 2, development seemed to be running smoothly. However, sometime early in development, Platinum's longtime publisher Sega dropped the project entirely. Now you can say the sudden split was due to the fact that Sega is a bit of a shit company sometimes, but in all reality the company wasn't doing so hot in the early 2010s.
All around me are familiar faces.
Canceling games, laying off staff, and trying to get their hands into the mobile market, which was just starting to gain traction, which probably wasn't the best move in the long run.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
So with Sega not renewing their contract, and leaving Platinum without a proper publisher, that left Bayonetta 2 wallowing in development hell for quite some time. Platinum pitched the game to other studios to find someone to fund the project, but no one seemed interested in it.
I know likey. Girls are grody.
And for a while, it looked like Bayonetta 2 was to be terminated. That was until an unlikely savior descended from the heavens and onto Platinum's doorstep. This mysterious company was none other than family-friendly Nintendo, who agreed to publish and fund Bayonetta 2 under one condition: that it would be a Wii U exclusive title. Back in the day, this shocked many Nintendo and Bayonetta fans, with the latter feeling angry and betrayed by the fact that the sequel would be a Wii U exclusive, especially since the Wii U was and still is a controversial failure. On top of that, many fans who owned an Xbox and PlayStation console didn't want to buy a whole new console just to play one game, no matter how good it was. Looking back now, I can see the frustration fans felt towards this agreement. But at the same time as Kamiya and other developers have had to politely remind fans, is that without Nintendo's help, there wouldn't even be a Bayonetta 2. However, that wasn't the only concern that fans had with Nintendo's involvement with the game. There was a tangible sense of worry as to how the company was going to handle Bayonetta's more risque qualities.
Let me introduce you to my friend. Her name's Fashion.
And given the absolute definitive, scientifically proven fact that the closest character Nintendo has to a sex symbol is Waluigi, I was a tad curious. And after playing through Bayonetta 2 in its entirety, I can confidently say, it's like looking into the sun. The game starts where all good stories begin, with people crying in dirt. We see the main antagonist of the last game, Father Boulder, after his defeat at the hands of Bayonetta. Suddenly, a shadowy spirit appears to be trying to break free from his body, but not before Boulder traps this mysterious figure, claiming that it cannot escape its fate. Collapsing onto the ground, he thanks Bayonetta for keeping her promise to him, just before fading into golden light. And with that, the last Lumen sage perishes, taking the right eye of light with him. But with that now begs the question, what of the left eye of darkness? Some months after saving the world, the Umbran Witch and the Left Eye are thriving, living her best life and having a bougie-ass shopping spree right before the holiday season. It is here that we see some familiar faces as well, such as our favorite foul-mouthed Italian Enzo, our #1 certified bestie, Jean,
That my best friend.
and of course, Black Santa. Even though the world seems at peace, there is a feeling that something is amiss. Jean voices her concern in saying that the realms of Inferno and Paradiso have been quiet as of late, a bit too quiet for her taste. And as if right on cue, a jet begins to plummet from the sky, right into Bayonetta's path. This is of course no accident, as the legions of Paradiso begin to descend upon the witches, leading to a costume change with Bayonetta serving up a fierce new look. Jumping straight into the action, I am happy to inform you that if you have played the first game, combat is pretty much the same aside from a couple tweaks here and there. If you need a refresher, go check out my video I made on Bayonetta 1. Shameless plug-in here. So for now, I'll try to catch you guys up on what has changed in the sequel, and also some of the stuff I forgot in my original video. I promise I'm doing my best. The first thing you may have noticed is that Bayonetta has had a bit of a facelift when it comes to the graphics. In my original video, I made a point to talk about the visual aesthetics, and the fact that the color palette seemed to be a product of trends at the time, but also seemed out of place for Bayonetta's eccentric personality. Thankfully, Platinum recognizes the issue going into Bayonetta 2, with the sequel having more vibrant colors and just being more visually stimulating. Also changing the color theme from red and black to blue and gold really helps in giving each game their own thematic identity, which I assume will carry over into the third game as well.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening! Everybody stay calm! What?
The combat itself has also gotten a bit of a visual upgrade. Fluid motion with colorful particle effects really helps in being able to see your combos while also feeling the power and weight behind every punch and kick. It also helps in keeping track of what the heck is even going on half the time.
I'm going to vor you in my mouth.
Some fights in this game, mainly the big action set pieces, are a tad overwhelming to the eyes. They're fast and hectic with shit flying at you from all directions and oh my gosh, where did Bayonetta go? In summary, I suggest consulting your doctor before playing this game. Moving on to the combat itself, if you have played the first game, Bayonetta 2 feels and controls relatively similar. Punching, kicking, shooting, spanking, the essentials are all still here. But the real secret to winning is still dodging and timing, activating which time to slap the cock right off your enemy's pelvis. One of the biggest new additions to the game is the Umbran Climax. After you do enough damage in filling your magic meter, you get the option to either do a torture attack or an Umbran Climax. The difference being is that instead of punishing one enemy at a time with a torture attack, you can now mop the floor of the arena, killing anything that so much as breathes on you. Now, I do have some mixed feelings about this new addition. Mainly, I believe they may have nerfed Bayonetta to incentivize players to use this move. As you can see here, Bayonetta's basic moves and combos only do a little bit of damage, whereas when activating an Umbran Climax, the enemy's health bar goes down significantly faster, and you're practically invincible during the move's duration. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the Climax move is an awesome new feature in Bayonetta's arsenal. It's a great new option for the magic meter, and it's a quick way to clear the screen of basic enemies. I'm a busy girl on the go, I got shit to do. However, the Umbran Climax does contribute to a problem with this game's overall combat that we'll get to later in the video. For starters, I find myself using it as a panic insta-win button to quickly end fights instead of learning my opponent's moves and overcoming my battle with skill, like you would in the first game.
Holy look at all this damage!
And even though I just said that's a new option for the magic meter, a 1-button prompt versus a 2-button prompt will always be easier to execute. Taking a break from combat, let's jump back into the story. With the city in ruin raking up property damage that would make the Avengers blush, the witches work together to defeat the invading Laguna, resulting in Bayonetta summoning her own infernal aid in the form of Gamora. However, in a strange turn of events, the demon turns on Bayonetta ready to end her life, but not before Jean pushes her out of the way, leading to her soul being yeeted from her body. Her soul is then dragged into Inferno, leaving Bayonetta cradling her body. This, for me, was a genuinely upsetting turn of events, seeing as how the girls were rivals in the last game, but are now closer than ever, knowing that they are the last of their kind. And watching Bayonetta mourning over her sister is truly heartbreaking. Thankfully, Rodin is able to preserve John's body, buying her friend some more time. Bayonetta is then tasked with venturing into Inferno to retrieve the witch's soul. Unfortunately, as indicated by her friend's Umbran watch, she only has 24 hours to accomplish her mission before she is permanently trapped in hell for all eternity. And with that, Bayonetta makes for the sacred mountain of Fimbulventr. And with the help of Enzo, he explains that rumors have circulated that the mountain is the only place on Earth that connects the human realms to both Paradiso and Inferno. With shitty in-flight service only rivaled by United Airlines, we make our way to the quaint coastal town of Noatun, resting at the foot of the mysterious mountain.
Damn, she thick as fuck.
Like in the previous game, the story is divided into 15 chapters. Each chapter has you moving from point A to point B, but the areas themselves can be quite large, with tons of extra stuff to find, so there is an incentive to explore a bit, especially if you want a better score at the end of the level. Stuff like finding chests that have been split into pieces that need assembling, herbs and materials to brew together to make healing and buffing lollipops, and of course halos that can be used to buy items from Rodin's shop. Support your local business, guys! Just like in Bayo 1, you can collect angelic LPs that can be exchanged for weapons. Some new additions include a poison bow for some long-range combat, a wide cleaving scythe with wiggly fingers, a big fuck-off hammer,
Go to horny jail.
and of course, chainsaws you can strap to your feet.
Salad. Taste. She's Miss United States.
Speaking of LPs, the music in this game is just as fabulous as it was in Bayonetta 1, with all new original tracks like the new battle theme Tomorrow Is Mine, and the new remix of Moon River as the main theme of the game. I still personally think Fly Me to the Moon is the ultimate tasty jam, but Moon River slaps so hard I think it leaves a mark. And last but not least, and something I super forgot about in the first game, we have challenge rooms. Scattered among each level, you'll find these glowing blue portals that will transport you to Muspelheim. Called the Alfheim in Bayonetta 1, these are challenge rooms to test your skill, such as challenges like kill all angels within a given time limit, defeat all enemies without taking a single hit, or this floor is lava bullshit. Now, let me be frank, I didn't think to mention the Alfheim in my first video because I couldn't even beat one challenge in the original game.
Boo! You stink!
Bayonetta 1 is absolutely unforgiving with its challenge rooms, and I just ignore them completely. Whereas in the sequel, I completed every challenge except for maybe like 2, and I was a consistent A and B student. even achieving a handful of platinum tokens. I would like to think it's because I got good.
It's about drive, it's about power. We stay hungry, we devour.
But the fact of the matter is that Bayonetta 2 is just more forgiving when it comes to its gameplay. More on that later. Wandering around Noatun, we find that the Laguna are here in this quiet town as well, but they seem to pay Bayonetta no mind, having their attention drawn elsewhere. Here we meet Loki, another mysterious child figure who appears to be being harassed by the Angels of Paradiso. Wow, sound familiar? Now, I have a bone to pick with this twerp. Loki here is very similar to Cereza from the first game, where Bayonetta is a kind of a protective figure accompanying them to their destination. However, for me personally, I can't stand this little shit. He comes off very smug and sarcastic, but he's not charismatic enough for it to be cute and endearing. And every time he calls Bayonetta love, it makes me want to suffocate myself in the couch cushion out of sheer embarrassment.
Wait, stop! Before I show you the way, love, you gotta agree to a little condition.
This is a child talking down to a grown-ass woman. Like, what? He also appears to have a bit of a memory problem, but before you can interrogate him, we are interrupted by more Laguna who all inquire about the boy. It's almost as if Bayonetta has walked in on an existing conflict between the angels and the child. But that sure as hell ain't gonna stop her from getting her hands dirty, even if she is a bit on a time limit. Good thing too, because he seems to be a bit of an idiot. Luckily for them, they both share the same goal of reaching the mountain, leading them to forming a temporary shaky partnership. And here is where the cracks begin to show. Cereza worked really well because even though she was important to the plot, she never really got in the way. If anything, she was literally tacked onto other people so Bayonetta could do her big girl work. But with Loki, the plot revolves so much around his character that he tends to get in Bayonetta's way. And even though Bayonetta is still the main character, his story gets so bloated that she sometimes feels like a side character to his conflict, and she's just there due to outside circumstances. And that's not to say that his story isn't important to the greater picture, but to talk more about Loki would lead to spoilers, so I'll save that for later. Swiftly moving on, we are introduced to a familiar face. Luca Redgrave is back, and compared to Loki, he's like a breath of fresh air. This time around, he kind of works as Bayonetta's informant, giving us a history lesson about Noatun and also hinting at events yet to come. He speaks of a god of chaos, Aesir, who ruled over the humans from the mountain, and that being the reason why the mountain has gateways to all the realms. Aesir is also the god responsible for granting humanity the eyes of the world, which of course grabs Bayonetta's attention. Also of note, when exploring Noatun, you'll come across diary notes from Luca detailing aspects of the area and the history of its people. Great stuff for all you lore whores out there. Knowledge is power. So, you may have noticed that Bayonetta is sporting some new drip. In both Bayonetta 1 and 2, after finishing the game on normal mode, you can buy and unlock costumes for Bayonetta to wear on subsequent replays. And now with Bayonetta being part of the Nintendo family, she can strut some looks from her peers. We've got the Hero of Time, a couple mushroom princesses, a furry,
I didn't ask for this,
and of course my personal favy, the Galactic Bounty Hunter.
You! What kind of adult picks on little children?
Absolutely fucking iconic. Some of the costumes can also change aspects of the world, like with Link's costume changing halos to rupees, or with Samus's costume having the ability to transform into the Morph Ball. These are not the only costumes, mind you, but they're definitely the ones worth talking about. Continuing on, Loki is bombarded by a figure who looks awfully similar to the boy, triggering aspects of Loki's power and summoning a giant wave. Just barely escaping, Bayonetta comments on how she has never seen anyone powerful enough to control the environment like that. He can't fully explain as to what just happened, but what he does know is that he's able to control something called the Remembrance of Time. He is able to peer into and control objects from the past, like summoning a flight of stairs or changing reality to what it once was. He can essentially control time. Don't let the game talk circles and confuse you, that's pretty much what's going on here. I will say, it only appears as if he can control the past. The future never seems to really be something he can manipulate, which I found to be quite fascinating. That's probably why it's called the Remembrance of Time rather than just time. Oh, now I get it. Unfortunately for our heroes, the Laguna are not the only ones trying to stop Loki from reaching the mountain. A masked figure watches close behind the duo, waiting for the opportunity to strike as the pair are separated. Bayonetta arrives just in time to save Loki's stupid ass, while also recognizing the figure to be a Lumen Sage. Which is shocking given the fact that the last of the Lumen Sages died months prior. I love this guy. Every time he shows up, you know you're in for an awesome fight. He's very similar to John from the first game, being a challenge to overcome and to test your skills in one-on-one combat. He's also just super badass, and is a really good showcase as to what the sages are capable of. After their battle concludes with a full-on Rock'em Sock'em Kaiju fight, Bayonetta and Loki find themselves at a cathedral that can lead them to the mountain's summit. As the duo make their way to the top of the tower, they are able to confide in each other over their shared experience with their lack of memory. They both have spent some time not knowing who or what they were, with Bayonetta only just recently discovering her past. This gives Loki the understanding that he's not alone in what he feels, and that with time he too will uncover his past. The pair then make their way towards the bridge leading to Fimbulvinter, but not before the Angel of Valor is all like,
"Stop right there, criminal scum!"
Even though it looks like the team keep losing ground, apparently the fall was a good thing. After being harassed by his look-alike once again, Loki starts regaining some of his memories and remembers a shortcut to the underworld. Which I'm over here like, yeah, no shit. You go down to hell, not up, you fucking Brussels sprout. As the duo make their way towards Inferno,
"Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me."
You'll come across some of the locals looking to have a barbecue with you walking in like an uninvited guest. Now these guys are dope. With their metal 1990s album cover energy and decorated with tons of moon motifs, it's a nice change of visual aesthetics in contrast to everything else you have fought up until this point. Their gameplay is a nice change of pace too, with a lot of the demons being way faster than most basic angels, and some enemies even being able to cast spell effects. Demons like Malicious can empower its allies, sending them into a rage, while demons like Resentment can turn Bayonetta into a baby, which gives me a bit of deja vu. It's really cool getting to see what the Little Angels team were able to come up with. And between the angels, the demons, the bosses, and some returning angels from the first game, it's incredible to see how many enemies they were able to fit in just one game. And just like in the first game and getting to wander around Paradiso, you'll also get to explore Inferno, with its corrupted and dying Garden of Eden thing it's got going for it. You know, all things considered, it's pretty quaint. Personally, I wish we would have spent more time in the idyllic European port town, but hell is a nice change of pace for some, so, you know, what do I know. Getting back on track, we find ourselves inside the belly of an Insidious demon, with Loki nowhere to be found. After some time searching, we find him trapped in the guts of the demon, where he is once again unconscious. Shh, he's sleeping. Just leave him. We don't need him. However, the masked Lumen Sage is determined to wake the baby, and that will just not do. During their confrontation, 2 clues are given to Bayonetta as to the identity of this masked figure. The first clue being a tube of lipstick that looks awfully similar to the lipstick that Bayonetta holds. The second clue comes after Loki beams him in the face with one of his projectiles, breaking his mask, revealing a shining blue eye. The right eye of light. No time to dwell on that, however, as the demon Insidious explodes from the inside out, dropping Bayonetta and Loki off just where they need to be. At the gates of hell. Working together to open the gate and fighting a newer model of one of my favorite bosses from the first game, the Golem, we are yet again face to face with our new rival. This time, however, he's brought a friend, a projection of a man hinting at a long-lost sin that Loki has committed, instigating the Lumen Sage to attack the boy once more. Bayonetta tries to defend Loki, but the man, known only as the Prophet, steps in her way, demanding that she return what is rightfully his, the left eye of darkness. This confrontation ends poorly for the Umbran Witch, But just before the mysterious man can take his prize, Loki opens the gates of hell, sucking everyone but the prophet inside, buying them some more time. Within Inferno is a tornado of chaos. This is where Jean's soul is being held captive, and where she will become a permanent residence if Bayonetta doesn't hurry the fuck up. Funnily enough, Radahn's here too, out for another bounty for the creature that just so happens to be feeding off Jean's soul, which is very convenient. With their goals in line, they work together to absolutely sweep the floor like, geez dude, you need a snicker? Wandering into the lair of a demon lord, we come face to face with the creature Alrune, who's been feeding off Jean's soul and also seems to be better enemies with Madama Butterfly, Bayonetta's chosen pack partner. Oh, wait, sorry, hold on, let me try that again. Madama Butterfly. But with mere moments to spare, we defeat Alrune, freeing Jean's soul and returning her to her body. Not only that, but we also get to see firsthand as to how Radahn makes his infernal weapons, with Alrune's essence trapped in a nice new pair of whips that can be attached to her hands and feet. No time to rest, however, as the Lumen sage has tracked down Loki, and he's out for blood. On the back of the warhorse Diomedes,
bye bro, bitch, bye ho.
Bayonetta intervenes, shattering the sage's mask. No longer able to hide his appearance, a younger, more dapper version of our old nemesis Boulder reveals himself in his full, spectacled glory. But just as before, both parties cannot overcome the other, leading to another stalemate. Just then, Loki's power begins to reawaken, leading him to becoming overwhelmed and accidentally sending both Bayonetta and Boulder to an all too familiar dark place. Transported 500 years into the past, Bayonetta finds herself once again in Vigrid during the height of the witch hunts. Here, we are introduced to one of the most awesome, badass characters this side of a BDSM convention.
Hey, stop!
Getting into spoiler territory now, this is Rosa, Bayonetta's mother. Rosa is quite capable in her own right, with her dual-wielding flintlock pistols and all the chains she has to restrain her foes, and whatever this is. Absolutely fucking iconic. She's also voiced by Bayonetta's actress, Helena Taylor, with her dipping into her deeper register, giving her a more mature and commanding presence.
We will be overrun soon. Gather at the clock tower. We must defend it with all our strength.
The reunion between these two is short-lived, however, as the armies of Paradiso are descending upon the town, ready to wipe out the witches for good. I'm so happy the Little Angels team decided to take the story in this direction. For one, having Noatun and Vigrid in the same game, side by side, it's like night and day. It's really fascinating to see how drastically different the color palettes were for these games, and just the overall evolution the series has taken over time. I also appreciate the fact that they brought back a ton of the original Angel baddies from the first game, as a nice little callback to Bayonetta 1. And lastly, having Bayonetta fight alongside her mother, this borderline mythological background character for the overarching plot of the series, is such a treat for the fans. And it just feels so deserved. Speaking of awesome, fucking witch-powered mechs, baby! Oh, that's another great inclusion. Being able to take part in the climactic battle leading up to the extinction of the Umbran witches really drove the point home that this was a war of literal biblical proportions. I also really got my ass handed to me, as shown by this silver trophy. Wait, what? Okay, I'm gonna be the first to say it. This game is way too easy. Now, bear in mind, I am basing this on my normal mode playthroughs of Bayonetta 1 and 2. If I were to switch to hard or very hard mode, I'm sure this would be a completely different story. But in my first ever playthrough with Bayonetta 1, I had my ass absolutely handed to me. I died a lot before I finished that game with my hoard of stone trophies. And you know what? That was great. It taught me that if I want a better score, I'll have to learn the game and really master the mechanics. And you know what else? That's exactly what happened. I love Bayonetta 1 a lot. I'm sure my bias is showing loud and proud. But I appreciate the fact that it taught me to not give up and try again. Maybe don't go into that fight with your brain turned off, stupid. figure out the enemy's moveset, and dodge at just the right time. Now, as for Bayonetta 2, in normal mode, the amount of damage inflicted on the player is heavily reduced compared to Bayonetta 1. Getting hit no longer reduces your magic gauge, leading the player to use more unburned climaxes. The amount of health pickups have been increased, while penalties for using health items have been completely removed, and fighting and completing challenge rooms have been made much easier. Now, most people would say this isn't a bad change. I myself am a huge proponent for easy mode in games, but for Bayonetta, it feels weird. And like I said, this is only my experience for the normal mode in these games. If you want a more hefty challenge, just play hard mode. Just keep in mind, you can't play hard mode until you beat Bayonetta on normal mode, so just saying. As the mother-daughter pair make their way to the clock tower, Bayonetta comes face to face with a boy dressed in blue, who has been harassing Loki, the little scamp. He explains that he wants what he proclaims to be his, the eyes of the world, mimicking the other blue man from earlier. He also lets slip something about his other self escaping to the future, and that piece of him must be eliminated. And with that, the boy is identified as Lopter, leading to him raising arms against us. You know, you get it? Because arms. Unfortunately for Bayonetta, she's going to have to take the L on this one, as Lopter escapes to make an appointment with fate. Back in the present day, we see Luca stumble upon a weakened Loki, who didn't get transported to the past. Okay. He finally remembers who he is and begs Luca to carry him to the top of Fimbulvinter before passing out, the fucking sleepyhead. Cutting back to the past, we find Baldur racing to the witch's inner sanctum. But once inside, we discover the truth behind the events leading to the Umbra's demise. The witches are already dead, with a lone figure looming above them. Lopter stands before Rose's body, but before Baldur can kill Lopter for his crimes, he slinks back into the shadows, but not before revealing the emblem on his forehead. An emblem matching the prophet that has been spurring him on to kill Loki this entire game. Baldur is once again forced to relive the pain of watching his lover die in his arms, but before she passes on, she pleads to her partner to love and protect their child, their only daughter, Ceresa. Time, however, is not on their side, and now is no time to mourn. Bayonetta and Baldur need to return to the present and stop Lopter from finding Loki. Luckily, due to the Crescent Valley being a holy place for the witches, Bayonetta is able to open a portal back to her proper time, because she can do that now. Laying his dead lover to rest, the Baldur of the past chooses to accompany the Bayonetta of the future to stop the evil that has taken everything from both of them. Transported back to present-day Vigrid, the pair must make their way back to Noatun to reach Fimbulvinter. Thankfully, Jean is back in action and is ready to assist them in reaching the Holy Mountain. Unfortunately, the denizens of both Paradiso and Inferno are teaming up to intercept them. Mercifully, the developers realized that dodging while rotating the camera was a terrible fucking idea. Now we do this. This is good. Bayonetta and Baldur reach the summit at just the perfect time. Lopter, still playing the role of a manipulative snake, offers Baldur the opportunity to kill Loki. But Baldur has learned the truth and takes his chance to strike at Lopter, damaging his head chandelier thingy. Now dropping the act, Lopter explains that he and Loki were once upon a time a single being. A being known as Aesir, the god of chaos. Now this is where the game tells you to sit down and shut up as it gives you a lore dump, but I'm gonna try to summarize it as best I can.
It's gonna be so bad.
Originally, Aesir was the chosen ruler of the human realm, tasked with watching them from the summit of Fimbulvinter. But over time, he pitied the humans for their lack of free will and granted them a portion of his own power, the eyes of the world. However, in doing so, his very being was split into two distinct personalities. Loki, representing the good in Aesir, wanted to see the humans flourish and thrive with their newfound freedom. Eventually, however, humanity gave birth to corruption and internet porn.
Oh! I'm okay.
Which in turn gave birth to evil within Lopter. Lopter, now representing the wickedness in Aesir, began to regret gifting away the eyes, and sought to reclaim his former power. For this reason, Lopter manipulated the darkness in the hearts of man, which culminated into the witch hunts 500 years ago. To escape his evil counterpart, Loki threw himself into the future, losing his memory in the process. In escaping, he denied Lopter the ability to control the eyes of the world, and he would have to wait 500 more years until he could reach Loki to where he fled. And so, patiently, He waited. Now with his other self and the eyes of the world all in the same place, he siphons Loki for his power first, taking the abilities of his counterpart. With Loki now out of the way, he can freely take back the eyes, starting with the right eye of light. With Baldur not putting up much of a fight, Lopter begins to advance on Bayonetta, but not before Luca swings in to grab Loki's unconscious body.
Don't worry, I got the kid. You've got my permission to show him your stuff, Bayonetta.
What on earth was that?
Apparently even the god of chaos cannot predict what this man might do. Regardless, Bayonetta is able to put up a much better fight against this over-entitled man-child. But even she slips up, and Lopter takes his opportunity to steal that left eye of darkness. Lopter now holds everything he needs to be reborn into the embodiment of Aesir, with all the power to manipulate time and space itself. However, neither Baldur nor Bayonetta truly use their respective eyes to empower themselves. Everything they are and the strength that they can achieve is all their own power. Even without the eyes, they are incredibly powerful for humans, and it's not like this is Bayonetta's first rodeo defeating a god, now is it? This boss fight is definitely one of the best in the series thus far. Even with Lopter throwing everything in the kitchen sink at Bayonetta, he is of course no match for her bootyliciousness. I will say I still think the fight against Jubileus is more memorable, just due to her literal massive scale and size, but Lopter does feel like a wonderful test of skill and timing. He actually reminds me a lot of what a better Father Baldur fight from Bayonetta 1 could have looked like. Back on Fimbulventr, Loki reveals one last trick up his sleeve. His trump card, if you will. But I'll let him do the talking on this one.
What? The real power of Lord Aesir, the god of chaos, is nothingness. The power to erase anything and everything from the world. Even the very eyes that created it.
No!
With Lopter now stripped of his power, the father-daughter duo do some sick dance choreography to summon Omni and kick Lopter's body from his soul. That is not a typo, stick with me on this one, sending him flying towards the open maw of John's demon summon. The soul of Lopter still remains, however, and threatens to reincarnate himself, beginning the cycle anew. But before he can escape to the spirit realm, Baldur blocks his path, imprisoning him inside his body.
Baldur!
Ceresa, listen to me.
You know my name?
If I stray from my path, you must be the one. The one to stop me.
Baldur!
Ceresa, just one time. Call me Daddy.
Daddy.
Thank you, Ceresa. My dear, sweet child.
Daddy!
And with that, Baldur is taken back to his own time, now destined to live his life, including his death, at the hands of his daughter months prior. As for Loki, he says that he's going to take a bit of a well-deserved break. But before he leaves, he hints at one day meeting Bayonetta once again, maybe next time being a little bit older. Now as for the fate of man, what will happen now that the eyes of the world have been erased? What will become of the balance, and who's to say that an outside force won't take advantage of the opportunity? Oh well, that's later. For now, life goes on for the witches, as a well-deserved shopping trip is in order. What's more important than post-holiday sales, dummy? But heaven forbid these women have a day off. Right on cue, the angels of Paradiso descend upon the witches, because as they say,
there's only one way to ring in the new year. Let's dance, boys!
Whew, that was long-winded. And to think I would have less to talk about covering Bayonetta 2. First off, I will say that Bayonetta 2's story is a huge improvement from Bayonetta 1. Bayonetta 2 is a much more personal story, as you can tell. Not only did she nearly lose her best friend and the only other witch still alive, but she also had to relive the annihilation of her own kind, including watching her mother and father die all over again. It's some genuinely heavy stuff, and if this game was your first introduction to Bayonetta as a character, I can see it being a favorite for a lot of people. One of the things I like most that this game was able to accomplish was the fact that we got to see the good side of Father Boulder. It gives us more context as to why he did the awful things he orchestrated in the first game, while also shedding light on prior events we thought were true, like the fact that he didn't kill Bayonetta's mother.
What about now? It's time to rock with the Vigrid back bumper. What about now? It's time to rock with the Vigrid back bumper.
But here's the thing, Bayonetta 2 doesn't exist in a vacuum. Bayonetta 1 is still here, and if you've played that first game, you might be disappointed in other areas. You might have noticed during my plot summary that I wasn't really discussing any wacky shenanigans happening on the sideline, and that's simply because this game isn't as campy as the first. Where are my Angel Vogue battles? Why isn't she flirting with every enemy she comes across? Where are lines like this?
Come now, Cheshire. Look at me. Do I look like I have any interest in children? Now making them? Well, that's another story.
I am very uncomfortable with the energy that we've created in the studio today.
Where are my demon volleyball scenes? Oh, never mind, there it is. For some reason, this game has a really bad habit of referencing old gags. Like, yes, those were really funny in Bayonetta 1, but you're not that game. Do something else. It makes me think that the writers weren't confident enough that Bayonetta 2 could stand on its own, so I had to lean on previous material for comedic value. And that really bums me out. And like I said before, this game has a lot of heavy stuff going on, not to mention that she's on a time limit for like half the game. So maybe taking a break and having a rap battle with some demons might have been in bad taste, but Bayonetta is the definition of bad taste. She's literally clothed in her own hair, for Pete's sake. And trust and believe me when I say this, bad taste is not a bad thing. That's what camp is, and I think having that pretty much scrubbed from Bayonetta 2 kinda misses the mark for me. And what was that one thing I said about Bayonetta 1? Something about time travel? And whenever you're messing with time travel, unless you have some really solid rules in place, it doesn't take much for your plot to get convoluted and messy. Alright, now this is what drives me up a wall. But instead of me just laying out my gripes with this game's plot holes, let me just ask you guys some questions instead. Number 1, how does Father Boulder have roasted lipstick when Bayonetta has it in the first game? Number 2, how does Lopter affect Father Boulder? Is Lopter in complete control, or did Father Boulder just go insane? I ask this because number 3, if Lopter is in control, why would he want to summon Jubileus? Wouldn't that be totally against his personal agenda? Or was that just plan B with Loki out of the picture? Number 4, if Lopter is in the pilot seat, with his knowledge that Father Boulder is dead in the present day, wouldn't he do everything in his power to prevent the events of the first game? I can go on, but suffice it to say, the plot's a little bit of a dumpster fire. But like I said before, just because I had some problems with this game doesn't make it a bad time. If you're looking for a fun, action-packed adventure with crazy, over-the-top set pieces and a leading lady that'll melt your heart, it wouldn't hurt you to pick up this game. It's available on the Switch right now, so there's no better time to pick it up. It's also on the Wii U, but unless you're a paleontologist, I wouldn't bother. Unfortunately, it's not as widely available as Bayonetta 1 is, but that's mostly due to Bayonetta 2 being a Nintendo-published product, so take that as you will. If you like what you see here, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you have any recommendations as to what I should do next, please leave a comment down below. Reading your guys' comments has been one of my favorite things with starting YouTube. Y'all have been so kind to me, and it really truly makes my day. Hope you guys have a great rest of your fall, and I can't wait to see you guys come Bayonetta 3. Kisses!